every avoidant is going to play 5 games with you when they're in love. But these games aren't what you're expecting. See, most people imagine love as these great romance. There are flowers, the late night talks, the grand gestures, but avoidants are different. To them, love is more like a chess match. Not one that you can see on a board, a secret one that they're running in their head. And every move they make, every silence, every pullback, every mixed signal is a piece sliding across that invisible board. Before you are 5 chess pieces. Each one represents a strategy an avoidant will use when they're in love, which sounds crazy, but I think what you're going to find as I pull back the layers on these pieces is that everything they do is connected. Let's start first with the pawn, which is going to represent the push-pull test. For any chess experts out there, the pawn is often the most underestimated piece on the board. They're not flashy like the queen or the rooks. They're more cautious, only making the smallest moves forward. That's exactly how avoidants approach love. When they're falling for you, they rarely come crashing in with full force romance. Instead, they inch closer, test the waters with a small gesture of affection, and then, almost immediately, they pull back. It's the classic push-pull dance. One day they're texting you late into the night, opening up about a childhood memory, or even holding your hand in a way that feels more intimate than usual. And then just when you start to feel the warmth of that moment, it's gone. They retreat into silence. Kurt Lewin, a German-American scientist, calls this approach avoidance conflict. It's the internal clash people feel when they're drawn towards something and repelled by it at the very same time. Imagine standing in front of a door you desperately want to walk through, but the second you reach for the handle, a shock runs through your body telling you to step back. That's approach avoidance in action. Lewin found that this conflict creates a kind of inner paralysis. You want the goal, but every step closer makes the negative side feel stronger. The closer you get, the louder the fear becomes. So what does an avoidant do when they start falling for you? They send a pawn forward, then they pull it back. Forward, back, over and over again. It's all a test. They're watching how you respond when they advance, and especially when they retreat. Do you chase? Do you panic? Or do you stay steady and show them that their moves don't have to end in catastrophe? Let's move on to the knight, which represents the disappearing act. Knights are tricky pieces. Unlike pawns or rooks that march in straight lines, knights move in these odd L-shaped patterns. You never see them coming. One moment they're off to the side, and then suddenly they leap across the board in a way that breaks every rule you thought you understood. Well, as I'm sure you're picking up on a theme here, avoidants play a game that's pretty similar in nature. I call it the random disappearing act. They vanish on these strange, almost nonsensical paths. One week you're texting every day, the connection feels solid, and then, out of nowhere, silence. No fight, no explanation, just gone. And when they reappear, it's often with an excuse that feels just sideways as their move. I've just been busy, or I needed to clear my head. The book attached makes reference to this idea of a deactivation strategy, a subtle and sometimes not so subtle way that an avoidant will create distance whenever closeness starts to feel threatening. To quote directly from page 117, a common deactivation strategy is pulling away when things are going well. For example, like not calling for several days after an intimate date. Notice the paradox in that. They pull away precisely when things are good. I don't think it's because they're losing interest. I think it's because good activates their deepest fear, and if they let themselves sink into that feeling, they'll lose control or eventually get hurt. And so you get the knight and their L-shaped patterns. It can't get any worse than that, right? Well, clearly you haven't met the bishop, which is all about the Phantom X illusion. The bishop is this strange piece because it never moves head-on. Instead, it slices across the board at an angle, always avoiding the straight path. So let's say you're getting closer and closer to someone you suspect is an avoidant. At some point, instead of facing intimacy with you directly, they're going to cut out diagonally towards someone who isn't even in the picture anymore, a past partner that they've idealized in their mind. And how can you tell this is happening? Well, you might hear little comments like, my ex just understood me better. Or you'll notice how they hold on to old photos, songs, or stories. Now, many times, it's not that they actually want their ex back. It's that clinging to a phantom version of the past gives them the safe way to sidestep the vulnerability of the present. Have you ever heard of the deflection mechanism concept? It's sort of like deactivation strategies we talked about earlier, but instead of pulling away through silence or disappearance, this one works by misdirection. Think of a magician waving one hand in the air while the real trick is happening elsewhere. That's deflection. The avoidant draws your attention to the ex or some other half-remembered rose-tinted story because that's what shields them from the intimacy you're offering right now. In psychological terms, deflection lets them keep love at an arm's length without openly rejecting it. It gives them a way to say, see, I'm still wounded, I'm still haunted by someone else, while never having to confront the raw truth. Closeness with you feels terrifying. And then there's the rook, also known as the loyalty gauntlet. Rooks move in a strong, straight lines, and when they're in place, they feel like a solid walls on the board. Avoidants do the same thing when they're in love. They build walls, but not all walls are created equally. Some walls are there to protect them, sure, but some are there to test and see if you're willing to scale them. My husband, who also makes videos on breakups and attachment styles, has a theory on this video, and I think he's right. He argues that at some point, every avoidant will run you through this gauntlet just to see if you survive. Psychologically, this is about stress testing trust. Avoidants struggle to believe that closeness can last, so they create scenarios, consciously or not, where you're pushed to the edge. And if you abandon them, it confirms their deepest fear. They'll say, see, I was right, everyone leaves. But if you endure and you hold steady, even when the walls go up, they'll register something surprising. Maybe it's safe to let their guard down. There is one more piece of the board that I'd like to talk about, but it's not necessarily a game they play, but a thing that they protect. This is the king, the shadow self. Everyone knows that in order to win at chess, you have to capture the king. So you spend all of your time and all of your moves focused on achieving that one goal. So let's do a hypothetical. Let's say that you somehow get past all the other chess pieces of the avoidant and their ridiculous games and put the avoidant on the back foot. What does their king do at that point? Well, it runs. That's the paradox of the king. In chess, the entire game is built around defending it, but the king itself is fragile. It only moves one square at a time, edging away from the danger, never charging head-on. Avoidants do the same. When you've managed to break through their defenses, you'd think the game is finally won. You've proven yourself. You've earned closeness. But that's exactly the moment when their protected part, their vulnerable core self, panics. This is the shadow self, the piece of them that carries their deepest fear. And if you see me as I really am, you won't stay. And so when it's exposed, their instinct is not to embrace it intimacy, but to run from it. Their goal is to buy enough time for the other chess pieces to catch up and defend it again. Which brings us to an interesting question. How do you win at this game? Well, what if I were to tell you that each of the 5 chess pieces and their games have a specific counter that disarms it? It's not so much about winning a game as it is learning the counters, so eventually the avoidant finally lets you in. The question is, what are the counters? We'll start first with the pawn again. Their game is that they inch forward with affection, then retreat. Your counter is don't chase the pawn, mirror their pace calmly. Here's the thing, when they lean in, it feels so good. When they pull back, your instinct is to go close the gap. But chasing only feeds their fear. Instead, you're going to want to match their pace. If they step forward, meet them there. If they step back, hold your ground, don't panic, and don't ask what did I do wrong. Just steady. It's what psychologists call secure mirroring. You're showing them that closeness doesn't mean losing yourself. And the craziest part is that the calm response gets noticed. I've seen avoidants circle back faster simply because the energy felt different. Let's talk about the knight. Their game essentially boils down to unpredictable withdrawals. Your counter is to stay grounded and fill in the space with your own life. They vanish. No warning, no fight, just silence. That's the knight's L-shaped move. What's the worst thing that you can do? Spiral. Blow up their phone. Beg for answers. Instead, just let their absence highlight your independence. Keep moving. See friends and work on you. That calm detachment takes all the power out of their disappearing act. That's the only way they're going to learn that silence doesn't control you. It just reminds them that you've got a life and that doesn't pause when they do. With the bishop, the game here is the fact that they'll idealize the past partners seemingly out of nowhere. Your counter is simple. Don't compete with a ghost. Instead, redirect to the present. The bishop never moves head on. Same with the Phantom X. It's a diagonal dodge away from you. So when you hear, "My ex understood me better," don't panic. And don't argue. Don't try to outshine a memory. Instead, gently pull them back to now. A simple, "that must have mattered to you, but let's focus on today." That flips the script and ensures that you're not fighting the ghost. You're grounding them in reality. The big game here essentially boils down to building walls and testing if you'll stay. Your counter, respect the wall, but don't live camped outside it. At some point, every avoidant runs through this. They're going to throw up a wall just to see if you'll survive. Your job isn't to smash it down or to wait forever on the other side. It's to show consistency without self-abandonment. This is what that should sound like in your head. "I'm here, but I'm also good if you need space." You don't even have to say that out loud. You can actually just think it, and they will get the picture when you start to do it. That balance is what surprises them. Most people either chase too hard or give up too fast. You're doing neither. They learn that you're steady, loyal, but not at the cost of yourself. That's when the wall starts to lower. Then finally, you have the king. And here's where most people mess up. They think that the whole point is to win, to crack through every wall, capture the king, and finally prove the avoidant wrong. You're the winner! Yay! But that's not how it works. You don't beat an avoidant at chess, especially a chess game that's happening inside their head. Instead, you flip the board. See, the goal was never checkmate. The goal is balance, stalemate, a place where neither side is trying to dominate the other, but where both can breathe. By learning the counters, eventually the king starts to trust you, because when you stop trying to capture them and instead focus on protecting the space between you, something shifts. You're not chasing every pullback. You're not panicking every time they test you. You're calm and steady. And that stability creates the only condition where the avoidant even considers letting their guard down. That's when it hits them. The game was never against you. It's always been against themselves. And the moment they realize that is the moment they finally see you not as the opponent, but as the one person who never needed to play the game in the first place.